Hi, I'm Brett Jennings, and for the last 12 years, I've traveled the country to meet, mentor, and mastermind with some of the brightest and best minds both inside and outside of real estate. I've taken those ideas, brought them back to our team of experts, and sold hundreds of homes per year all across Silicon Valley, and this is how we do it.
All right, everyone. I think we're going to go ahead and start getting started here. So again, thank you for jumping on. Our apologies and embarrassment that our last session was bombed by some hackers, but glad you were able to join us this morning. And it's a really salient topic right now, is really learning how to thrive through a shift. We are super lucky to have Brett Jennings here to go take us through some tips, tricks, and best practices to thrive through a shift. For those of you who don't know, Brett actually started his real estate career in 2008, 2009. So for those of you who've been in real estate that long, that was a really tricky time to actually get started. So from the man who was able to do 36 transactions in 2009 at definitely a barely recovering real estate market, we're going to learn from him how to thrive through this next shift. For those of you who are unfamiliar with real estate experts, we run off of Side as a venture-backed brokerage startup, and Brett Jennings is the owner and founder of Real Estate Experts. We went from having a team of, team of maybe 5 or 6 agents and kind of got stuck at about $1 million, for a period of time, invested a ton of energy and money in going through coaching. And since then has built up this amazing practice, sharing all of his best tips and tricks, which we've seen as our success from our team, going from 468 million in volume to 1.2 billion last year. So we are super excited to have Brett here sharing his tips and tricks. Brett, the microphone is yours.
Awesome. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Cool. Well, I am super excited to speak on this topic because I've been getting a lot of calls and questions from agents, obviously with the stock market tanking, rates on the rise, and as much as a 0.75% bump just last week. Agents are asking, hey, is this a correction? Is there going to be a recession, or is there a potential crash on the horizon? For sure, what we know is changes on the horizon, and there's a shift is not ahead of us. The shift is here already, and you're seeing it and feeling it. And I'm excited. When I talk to some people get are fearful. Other people get excited, and I'm telling you, there is cause for concern, but there's more things to be excited about. So I'm going to dive right in. I've got a number of slides that we're gonna go through, and so I'm going to share my screen as we get started here. Let's go slideshow. Cool. So starting out, obviously we're in the shift here. A couple things from you, just some housekeeping. Number one is it's been said that the mind is like a parachute. It only works when it's open. So I'm going to ask that you keep an open mind as we go through what we talk about today. The second thing is participation. And so we are on the Zoom webinar format here. So obviously we can't come off a mute and say hello and things, but we do have some Q&A that's going to happen here. And I'm going to ask for your participation, and please do chime in on the chat. We'll also have a poll that we'll take in the beginning. But the main thing, a couple of principles here is, if you just sit and passively listen, research has shown that you'll remember about 10% of what you hear. If you listen and you take notes, you'll remember about 30% of what you hear. And I don't know about you, but like if you're taking an hour out of your day and I'm taking an hour out of my day, to remember 10%, if I share 10 good ideas and you only remember 1, or 30%, you only remember 3 out of the 10, it's not, wouldn't be the best use of our time. So what I'm going to ask is what the studies have shown is by participating, right? It means listening, taking notes. And when I call out for responses in the Q&A, go ahead and type into the chat. Your retention will go up as much as 70%. And I think that will make it the best use of our time for all of us. So deal? All right, here, go ahead and in the chat, put deal if You're on board for making the most out of this next hour. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Cool. Well, moving on. The other thing I want to mention is if you stay till the end, two things. We're going to provide a copy of all the slides that we're going to share today, if you stick around to the end, as well as a bonus, this roadmap of exactly kind of what my journey has been and how I have helped many, many agents now grow their business to really from just a handful of transactions a year to doing hundreds of transactions and making millions of dollars per year. Last year, I had a personal goal of helping 5 agents make their first million in real estate, and I helped 9 agents do that. Goal is this year is to help 25 people do that, but this roadmap is the journey there. So that will be a bonus for you if you stick around to the end. So starting off with what's happening in the market update. Clearly the market has shifted. So just to kind of level set and see what exactly has happened and where we are, the number, and I'm quoting stats for Silicon Valley, the South Bay area. So if you're calling in from a different area, the numbers may be slightly different, but for sure the trends are the same. What we're seeing right now is the number of active listings year over year has increased 34%. So third week of June compared to the third week of June last year, we have 34% more active listings. The number of closed sales in the first 3 weeks of June compared to the first 3 weeks of June last year has dropped 28%. We're already starting to see sales prices decline, and days on market, in some places prices are still holding relatively steady, and other places we're starting to see them decline. I changed the slide deck from last week to this week because last week I said prices are holding steady, but I just met with a client who we originally met in April. He was thinking of selling his house, and I told him, the market may shift, but they decided to wait, and now they're selling. And we revisited, the CMA that we had produced for them, and that listing, the potential sales price went from $1,950,000 to $1,750,000, just based on the comps and what's active right now. So definitely in the places in the pockets where things have been very heated, we're seeing as much as a 10% correction in prices. Quick question for those of you online to chime in on the chat. What are you seeing in your market? Are prices holding steady, or are you seeing prices decline? So just a quick chime in the chat there, if you would. What are you guys seeing out there? Prices holding steady, decline, holding steady, decline slightly, a bit of both, a good amount of reductions, depends on the property, depends single family versus condo. Accepted offer prices are declining. All right, well, that's good stuff. And on that note, I want to take a quick poll here. And I'm just looking to get, a read from you all on how the market shift has affected your business. So you should see a chat here, not in the chat, it's actually pop up on your screen. How has the market shift affected your business? You can answer, I believe, more than one. It's, most of my buyers have moved to the sidelines and waiting it out. My sellers are rushing to get on the market. My sellers are not listing and waiting it out. And my production is down this year. So go ahead and chime in the chat. We'll give that another 10 seconds or so for you guys to round out your answers before we move on. Interesting. So the largest answer here is most of your buyers have moved to the sidelines and are waiting it out. You're going to want to stick around. Just when we get about halfway through the session today, I'm going to outline and lay out for you exactly what we're seeing and saying to help our buyers stay engaged in the market. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and close out the poll here, and we'll move on. All right. So here's what we're seeing, again, just another sign of the market. This is looking at list to sales price ratio here in Santa Clara County for single family homes, going back as far as November of last year. You see, we were at about 100, offers were going about 110% over, then things really shot up, and now things are coming back down to reality. Just another sign that the competition and overbidding is coming to a close. So looking forward, what is the forecast? Well, looking at the data year over year, we are seeing a 10% increase in the number of new listings. Now, we did say that we saw more active listings. So the difference between active listings and new listings is what's sitting on the market, right? So a 34% increase in the number of active listings, but actually the number of people who are putting their house on the market is also declining a little bit. And then the second thing that we're seeing is a 30% decrease in the number of pendings. And I did see, we had someone raise their hand there, Lauren, if you can see what that question was. And so here's what we can expect. Expect to see a 30 to 40% drop in the number of sales until we recover. So for sure, what we know is the market has slowed down. There's fewer transactions happening. And so that's, I think that's what we can see. The question is, how long will this last and how long will it take for it to recover? So there's a few things to look at. A best case scenario is what we're experiencing right now turns out to be like the summer of 2018. And for those of you who were in the business in 2018, you might remember the Federal Reserve started bumping up interest rates. They went into a monetary policy where it was tightening. They were pulling money out of circulation just like they are now. At that time, Facebook, Apple, Netflix, and Google dropped between 25 and 40%, the FANG stocks, as we call them. And our real estate market between May and when it really kind of bottomed out in December, dropped about 8%. So rates went up 1%, stock market, at least the tech stocks went down 25 to 40, and our real estate market went down about 8%. Now in 2018, the Federal Reserve decided that they were going to lower interest rates a bit, and that kind of turned the stock market around. So best case scenario is we would see this correction turn around and regain velocity in the first quarter of 2023. Now, a likely case scenario is this. If you listen to what the Federal Reserve had to say about the latest interest rate rise that came out last week, is they said rates will continue to rise through the spring of 2023, and we probably won't see rates come back down to lower levels like in those, mortgage rates back down in the threes until the end of 2024. So that's kind of a likely case scenario. And a worst case scenario is, this ends up being the Federal Reserve and the monetary policy that they just put in place to try to keep inflation down shoves us into a recession, and a longer recession. And it could take as long as 4 years for the market to find a bottom. Nonetheless, we got to prepare to do things different, okay? And the rest of what we're going to talk about is how to thrive through a shifting market. And tell you a little bit about my personal story, because I'm speaking from experience here. I had the good fortune, or maybe some people might call it misfortune, but I think looking back on it was a good fortune. I started my real estate career 3 days before the 2008 crash, when the financial markets collapsed and Bear Stearns filed bankruptcy. My wife was just about to deliver as a picture that you see there. To me, that was probably one of the best things that happened to me as far as real estate goes, because I didn't have a reference for what was difficult and what was easy. So looking at that, it changed my mindset. Like I had no perspective. All I knew is whatever it takes is whatever it takes to get a deal is whatever it takes to get a deal. It also didn't have me. I was totally open to doing things in whatever way it was going to work. The other good fortune that happened at that time was 40% of the agents left the business. In 2008, I forget the number of licensees, but the state of California had like some crazy amount. It was like 300,000 people had a real estate license. Like every 50th citizen had a real estate license. Your hairdresser was a real estate agent. Everybody was a real estate agent. So what that did is the habits that I built during that period of time and the mindset that I built positioned me perfectly for the rebound. When I say the rebound, the market bottomed from 2008 basically to December of 2012. The market was continuing to go down, and it turned around in January 2013. And my business literally transactionally and income-wise doubled year over year over year over year ever since then. And it fortunately got us to I think it was in 2015 or 2016, we first hit the Wall Street Journal list as one of the top teams in the country. And I'm humbled and privileged to say that just this year for Real Trends, we just hit the #2 mega team in all of California, and we're the #10 mega team in all of the country. So I don't say that to impress you, but just to impress upon you, if you get your mindset right around what happens during a shift, it can be game changing for you. So what you see on the screen here is some Chinese, what they call kanji. It's the characters that they use, right, to write words. And does anyone know what those characters mean right there? It's one word. Anyone know what it means? You can type it in the chat if you happen to know. Success. I like it. Kaizen. Okay. Well, actually, here's what it means. Crisis. And what's interesting, if you look, it's actually two characters comprise this one word. And what this one word is made up of, when written in Chinese, the word crisis is composed of these two characters. One represents danger and the other represents opportunity. And I think there's some real innate wisdom in this that if we just step back and look at it, how we experience this is a choice. Because although the world may be in chaos, your business does not have to be. And what do I mean by that? Well, let's take a look and see what really this means. If in fact crisis is danger and opportunity, well, what are the dangers and the opportunity in this market? One danger is rates are rising, the market's slowing, there's going to be fewer sales. The opportunity here, many agents are going to leave the business. In 2008 to 2012, 40% of the agents have left. I'm hearing estimates, they're saying this slowdown is probably going to push 15% or more agents out of the business. Number two, inventory is rising. It is going to be, if you're taking listings, it's going to be harder to sell those listings. The opportunity there is there are going to be expired listings, but also there's going to be deals for your buyers, right? As these properties sit on the market. I know just yesterday, actually 2 days ago, NECA Jenkins, one of our partners, put a deal into contract that had come on the market at 2.3 just 3 weeks ago, and they got it into contract for 2.1 million, which would have been unheard of, right? Just 45 or 60 days ago. The third thing, selling listings become hard. This is an opportunity for expert agents to gain market share through expired listings. I've never been a big advocate of chasing expireds when we were in these rising markets, because the only listings that weren't selling were either really crappy houses or sellers that were crazy. But now you're going to have actually really rational sellers that just happen to get hooked up with an average agent that couldn't navigate that market. And we have already started to experience people reaching out to us and some of that. Third, danger is buyer move to the sidelines. The opportunity there is for you to educate your buyers and stand out with stats and data to really keep those buyers engaged. And we're going to talk about that here in just a few more minutes. But ultimately, got in the business, on the chat, go ahead and type in the chat if you got in the business after 2018. Type in the chat if you got into real estate after 2018. 2021, new agent, after 2018, late 2019, 2020. Here's what I can say about that is if you got your license after 20 and started in real estate after 2018, even if you've been a successful agent and you've done some deals, you haven't really sold real estate. And what I mean by that is real estate up until now has pretty much sold itself. You need to put yourself in the path. You might have needed to learn some scripts and dialogues just to field leads and get those doors open, and you might have to get crafty on how to write offers and get your offers accepted, but you haven't really had to sell real estate. And now that game is changing. And the quote that I put at the bottom of the slide is the real benefit, and why I say was the saving grace for me when I got first started, was they say good markets make lazy agents and bad markets make great agents. And what do I mean by that? Well, this is really all about mindset. And as we approach this, if I'm heavy on talking about the mindset around this, there's a reason. It's been said that success is 80% psychology and 20% mechanics. So we're focusing on the 80%. This is what one of my mentors, when I started, I was at Keller Williams, had to say about market shifts is, one, it's an opportunity. It doesn't seem like it, but it is. You watch, you get way out in front of this shift with tons of energy and tons of effort. And on the backside of this, you'll see new heights you weren't sure how you would get to. But shifts make this possible. It hurts in the interim because you have to work harder to get the same results. And that absolutely was true for me. I told you, in between 2012 and 2021, our business literally doubled, at least 50%, if not 100% growth year over year. And it was all from this foundational skills. And we're going to talk about those. So that's why mindset matters. The first part of mindset, though, is really getting your habits right, because your habits and your rituals, and this is from my friend and mentor, Tony Robbins. I had the privilege of not only training with him, but actually working for his company for a few years between 1997 and 1999. But probably the single best thing that I learned from him was really about building habits. To this day, this morning ritual is the most important ritual of the day, as it sets your energy and tone for the rest of the day. And for us, when I say us, at Real Estate Experts and the elite group of agents that I get to lead and manage, this is kind of our formula. It comes out of a book called The Miracle Morning. If you haven't read this book, it's a must read. In fact, on the next screen, I will put up a QR code. You can scan it and get the book. But it was written by this guy, Hal Elrod, who he was in his early 20s, had a near fatal car crash, was paralyzed, and was told he wasn't going to be able to walk again, and really got depressed, and read from everything he had read and heard about personal development. He's like, well, what is personal development? And that if I can manage my mindset and overcome this, these were the things that he focused on. So it's called savers, silence. So getting meditation in, affirmations, really speaking into existence not just what you want to do, but who you want to become. Third thing, visualization, having kind of an ideal scene, getting some kind of exercise in. So the first part of this is getting your head on straight. And the second part of it is, getting your body's energy up, because you are going to need to put in more effort. Reading something positive, and then scribing on journaling. Anybody, oh, cool. I was just going to ask, anybody participated in or read the book Miracle Morning and done it? So we got Denise Clevey from San Diego, says it's an awesome book and she loves the savers. So getting your mind and your body right is the first part of the productive rituals that are going to carry you through carry you through this shift, because this is going to become a market where discipline and skills will reign supreme. Discipline and skills will reign supreme. And it's going to basically just call the best out of you. And that's why when the market shifts back, you've built all these habits, it's like you get your unfair share of all the business that's coming back as the market recovers. So here's a quick QR code. Go ahead and scan that. That'll take you right to Amazon. Again, I'm all about taking action. So don't wait, pop this up on your phone. When you finish the call, you can complete your thing. I think it's $17, but it is a game changer and a life changer if you will make yourself available to it. Now let's talk about, we've talked about the psychology. What are we going to do? We're going to get our mindset right and our habits right. But now let's talk about strategy. So we're going to go through in greater detail. These are the 5 things to really focus on when moving through a shifting market. And this comes straight out of the book Shift that Gary Keller wrote I think it came out in 2010. So it was, this was the best wisdom that came out of coming through that shift. So get your finances in order, double lead gen, triple your focus on conversion, increase training efforts, and be the expert. Ultimately, we got to expect to invest more and then work harder. So what do I mean by get your finances in order? First thing is determine your real expenses. One of the things that will take you down in a market shift is what I call financial vagueness. I've experienced this at different times in my life. It's not really knowing how much you have coming in and how much you have going out. If you've been running through a booming market, all you knew is that, man, I got way more money in the bank coming in than I got bills, and it's all good. Now, when the market starts to shift, what might happen is you start to get some financial vagueness, some ambiguity. Like, am I making enough to pay my bills? Like, how much are my bills? So determine what your real expenses are in both your business and your life. Number two, know the ROI on your marketing. What is the return on investment? So if you have a credit card statement and you've been spending money on some mailers or farming or, Z-Buyer or whatever leads, take a look back. How much have you spent on those in the last 6 months or year? And how much has that brought in? If it's not producing at least a 5-to-1 return, meaning you're making 5 times as much off of it as you put in, it's probably not a great pillar. And then so you want to look and identify what those are. Number 3, have a budget. Go through, kind of relates to number 5, have a budget. If not, create one, because this is the time where you're going to want to be financially and fiscally disciplined. You don't want to, get out over your skis in this kind of a contracting market. Again, getting clarity on these things will strengthen your mindset. Without it, you'll have that vagueness and then anxiety, and that does not put you in a position where you're in the best place to go out and hunt new business and make deals happen. Number 4, set a goal for 3 months of core capital. What do I mean by core capital? Basically savings in your personal life and savings in your business account. If you've been in the business for any more than a year, you should have a business checking account and a business savings account, and put in 3 to 6 months of savings there. So again, you're prepared to weather a storm. And number 2, you'll have just a sense of financial peace about where you are if things continue to tighten up. Number 5, review credit card statements. I know many of us, you sign up for stuff and you forget that you signed up about it. In a booming market, again, you're making more money than you're spending, and so you don't really think about it. But this is the time to go back line by line, look at your credit card statement, select what are the things that we really need in this business and what do we not need. That is one of the benefits, by the way, of what we call the teamridge model. Real Estate Experts is a teamridge. What I mean by that is we provide all the resources, systems, and support that people would find inside a real estate team. And so we provide those things so people can shed a lot of those expenses. Oftentimes when people come over, they're spending anywhere from $500 to $3,000 a month less because they've got all of those resources built in. And then number 6, shift your expenses wherever possible from fixed to incremental. What does this mean? If you have an assistant, can you pay that person per transaction instead of on a monthly or hourly basis? Or if you have a what we call a domestic onshore assistant, if that person can shift to part-time and you can take up the slack with a virtual assistant that costs you $2,000 a month and not $6,000 a month, all the better. But again, when we're going through a shift, we got to know that, again, best case scenario, this is going to be a 7-month shift. Likely scenario, this is probably going to be the end of 2024. So we're probably got 18 months ahead of us. And then worst case scenario, we got 4 years of this. So this is something to take seriously, and shift your expenses from fixed to incremental. By the way, this is one of the ways that we had set up real estate experts when I built this business. Was I wanted a way for, high producing agents to come in. They could have all the support they would if they had a, regular assistant and a listing manager, somebody who was going out and putting signs, flyers, and lock boxes, but without having to have, a person on salary for $6,000, $7,000, or $8,000 a month. And so what's the way we kind of set things up here. So that's how to get your finances ordered. Number 2, prospecting and lead generation. So here's a quiz, time for participation again. If the market slows down by 40%, how much more effort do you need to work to make up for it, to make up the same number of sales? I'm going to go ahead and ask this question. Go ahead and chime in the chat. If the market slows down 40%, how much more effort do you need to put in to make the same number of sales? I got one person, Peter Redmond, double, 150%. Yeah, it's not quite double, but here's what it is. The answer is 70% more. Statistically, if you take 100%, you cut it down to 60%, you have to do 70% more effort to get back to where you were. So ultimately, what I did here in the chat though was, this is the formula. You're going to want to double down on prospecting and lead generation. Why? Well, as many of you alluded to in the poll, about 2/3 of you said your buyers have moved to the sidelines, right? So that means there's 1/2 to 1/3 the number of available prospects out there. And so we're going to need to talk to twice as many people. How do you double down? First thing is calendar your prospecting time. Here at Real Estate Experts, we have something called Power Hour, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 9 to 11. I'll tell you what my formula was through the shift. My formula is I did 2 hours a day, 2 hours a day for 5 days a week. I did Monday, Wednesday, Friday from 8:30 to 10:30. And then I did Tuesdays and Thursdays. My daughter had just been born. So I'd go home at like 4 o'clock. I'd eat dinner with the family on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and I'd kiss my kid and my wife and say, hey guys, I'm going back to the office. And I'd grind it out from 6 to 8, okay? So I did Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8:30 to 10:30, Tuesdays and Thursdays from 6 to 8. And that my goal was to set 4 appointments a week. If I didn't get 4 appointments set, then I would put in another block from 10 a.m. to noon on Saturday morning to get that extra appointment in before I had to go out and either show houses or host an open house on the weekend. And that formula, I did 12 transactions my first year, and I did 36 transactions my second year in the business. And it was very simple. But the key here is, we talked about building habits, is calendaring that prospecting time. The second thing is, prepare your list of people you're going to call before you sit down to prospect. If any of you have noticed, and if you're honest with yourself, you'll know if you haven't done this, you can block an hour and a half or 2 hours to call, but you may only call for, if you block 2 hours, you may only call for an hour and a half, an hour and 15 minutes, because you're spending a lot of time getting organized, checking emails and things. So the way to prevent yourself from hallucinating that you're working is what we call tracking your activities. First thing, blocking it. Power Hour is one of the things that we do here. If you, by the way, like if you have a friend or a colleague that's committed to growing their business as well, buddy up with them. It's always easier to do the difficult things if you've got somebody to do it with. I call it like, it's easier to eat dog food if somebody's eating it with you. So that's one thing. This is an activities tracker. I'm happy to, when we send out the slide deck, happy to send this out. It's a very simple paper-based tracking system, but I can tell you it's a game changer. You'll see on there, it's got prospecting and follow-up. The goal is to get 50 points a day. You get 1 point for a dial, a text, or a door knock, 5 points for a conversation, and 10 points for an appointment set. But I promise you, it's a very simple system, but if you follow it, here's what I know from experience. If I'm manually dialing, when I say manually, I'm not using Mojo or something. I can call about 25 people in an hour. About 4 or 5 of those people will pick up. And those could be prospecting calls, or those could be lead follow-up calls. So if you do this and you try to hit 25 a day, you will hit your goals. for sure. So it's just a good tool to have. So bottom line is, though, it's about doubling down on your lead generation efforts. Next thing is about doubling down on calling your sphere of influence in your farm. The key thing here is well, I call this the 4 C's. What you want to do is obviously make the contacts that we just talked about, call, text, or direct message. DM is now, a medium that's legit when it comes to prospecting, whether you're DMing on Facebook or LinkedIn. Check in and with people and find out, hey, what are your real estate plans? Or did you have any real estate plans that you've put on hold? The third thing is getting curious. And this is where the lead-in becomes the opportunity for you to educate and be the expert. It's asking your clients, what have you heard about the real estate market? Obviously, they're going to talk about interest rates. They're going to talk about, maybe the market's going to crash. And our goal is to provide clarity. So contact, check in, be curious, and provide clarity. And I tell them, we put together an update with data and insights about where things may be headed. I'd love to spend 10 or 15 minutes and walk you through that on a Zoom. I'm going to share this with you, the entire deck here in just 1 minute, guys. But you'll see exactly where we go with that. So this is, you can screenshot this if you want. This, again, we'll be sending the deck out after. This is a text you can send out to your active buyers. Many of you guys who said half of your buyers have gone to the sidelines. I wanted to check and see if you're aware of what's happening. Inventory is opening up and creating a lot of options for buyers. I put together an overview with some data and insights to keep my clients informed. It may or may not change your plans, but at least you will be in the know. Do you have 15 minutes for a Zoom call? Let me know. Okay, so this is a text that we've been sending out. And when the week that we did this, we set 53 Zoom appointments. And you'll see the material and the information that we shared recently. But all is not lost, right? Your buyers are thinking that they can't afford to buy anymore. But this market's going to belong to those people who are committed and creative for their clients. I shared with you at the top of this call, or earlier in the call, one of our partners got a buyer's offer accepted. The listing came on the market 3 weeks ago at 2.3 million. They got the offer accepted at 2.1. And she was able to get her buyer a loan at 4.25% interest rate. And that might seem like a crazy interest rate given rates are 5 and 6%. But what I mean by getting creative is there's something you can do called the 2-1 rate buy down. That means pay 2% origination fee to buy down the interest rate, to take the interest rate down 1%. And most lenders will allow up to a 3% credit towards closing costs, which they can use to buy down the interest rate. So she was able to get her clients, although prevailing rates are 5.25, she wrote this offer for, I believe it was $2,130,000. So the house is really 2.1 is what they negotiated on the purchase price of the home. But she told her client, hey, look, we're going to raise the price slightly so we can ask the seller for a credit to buy down your interest rate, because I want to get you get you locked in on a really good interest rate on this house. So she was able to write that offer, bumped it up from 2.1 to 2.13 and asked the seller for a 2% credit towards those closing costs. And that enabled her buyer, instead of being at a 5.25 rate, to be at a 4.25 rate. So it's that kind of creativity that is going to put deals together. This is Zoom market updates. We're going to go through and I'll show you what those slides look like. Again, the main thing here is there's some big changes. I'm offering these market updates, talk about your goals. Here's the main thing to know. It may or may not change your plans, right? It takes the pressure off. It's like, hey, look, I'm not saying you have to buy, but I at least just want you to be informed so you can make the best decision for you and your family. The other thing that we're going to want to do in doubling down on prospecting is really find the most motivated buyers and sellers. If you're looking for listings, take a screenshot, write these down. These are called the 4 Ds. It's the distressed properties, notice of default, divorces, attorney filings. If you talk to your title or escrow rep, we use a resource here called Property Radar or Title Toolbox. You can actually pull these particular categories, death, divorce, downsize, and distress. Those are the four ones that are your must-sell sellers. And those are the people that if you're looking for listings, you want to put extra attention in those four areas. Third thing is tripling your effort on lead conversion. We talked about half the buyers are gone, so we got to double down our prospecting efforts. But our lead conversion is also important because buyers and sellers are going to be a little hesitant to engage. It's going to require simply more conversations and better conversations. So the more conversations is just, again, about time blocking your follow-up and then identifying you got 100 people in your pipeline. And if you don't have 100 people in your pipeline, check with us, because you should always have at least 100 people in your pipeline. But focus on those most motivated buyers and sellers. Create those contacts, check in, be curious, and have fun. I put this picture of this guy smiling and dialing because, it actually, if you've gotten good with your prospecting and you get in the groove and you build that habit, it is fun. It is fun and it is very productive. Number 4. So we said double down on your lead generation, triple your efforts on lead conversion, those, lead follow-ups. But number 4, increase your training efforts. This is about mastering dialogues that create urgency and becoming a master of the market. Keeping Current Matters is a fantastic resource, keepingcurrentmatters.com. I'm going to share some slides here in just a second of that particular resource. And then we add in some of the local data. The other thing that when you're going to want to increase your training efforts, get into coaching. If you aren't already in coaching, we do coaching here at Real Estate Experts. Training and coaching happens every Wednesday. But if you're not in a brokerage or an environment that's offering consistent coaching, get into a coaching program. Tom Ferry and Lorna Hines are great. Well, both have great coaching and training. And then most importantly, role play. We do have a role play call that happens here Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 8:30 a.m. for half an hour. It's just to get them all. I got marbles in my mouth. To get the marbles out of your mouth. So it's like, look, we want to get paid like pros, and that's the beauty of this industry, right? You can come into this industry, and if you're willing to be consistent, be persistent, continually grow and learn, the income potential is unlimited. We do have the ability to get paid like a doctor, a lawyer, a professional athlete, but we have to train like them. And how long does a doctor or a lawyer go to school? They're in school for 16 years. How long does a professional athlete? They practice, 68 hours a week for 60 to 60 hours a week for 16 minutes of play, and it's that level of dedication to our craft. Lastly, and the 5th thing is to be very visible and over communicate. Sellers, this is about pricing it right and getting reductions. Couple things you're going to want to do. If you have listings, write this one down. Number 1, you want a consistent time on your calendar for updating your sellers. Don't be reactive. Okay. I put mine on the calendar for Tuesdays because I'll tell them, look, we're going to host open houses on the weekend. Mondays, typically, we're going to be fielding either offers or whatever the interest is. Buyers that have come through those open houses on the weekend are typically talking to their agent on Monday. So by Tuesday, we should be able to have a pretty good assessment of what the interest from the last week's activities are. But if sorry, I got a dog in the house. the excitement of a live Zoom. If you set it a consistent time on the calendar and they know that they can count on it, then you can be proactive versus reactive. It's not good for you or your seller or your psychology or mindset if the seller is calling you asking for updates and you're kind of tap dancing trying to give them the information. Number 2, set all sellers up on a buyer search. Now you might be thinking, like, why do I want to send my seller a buyer alert? You want them to see all the new listings coming on the market as they are coming on. And you want to put a cap on the listing price at whatever your current listing price is. So if you're listed at $1.5 million, set a buyer search up from $1 million to $1.5 million of all new listings that come on. what's going to happen is they're going to start to see the new inventory. When we get into a shifting market and the market's going down, they're going to see their, the neighbors came on, same kind of house, listed for 100,000 less. And when they see that, they're going to be like, crap. Now, when you have the revisiting conversation with them the following Tuesday because their price hasn't sold, instead of you coming to them with that new information and saying, oh, the one around the corner just listed for 100,000 less, it's not new information to them. They've already been percolating on it and been sleeping and maybe losing sleep over it. So when you have the conversation about the price reduction, they're like, yes, I saw that. You're right. We do need to reduce the price. Okay. And then thirdly, set them up to receive all new sold properties that are coming through at less than their value. And then lastly, master price reduction dialogues. Okay. But number 2 and 3, make sure you take a note. If you have any active listings, put those on, save yourself, do yourself a favor and do that. Now, on the buyer side, we want to educate them on the market, developing mastery on why buy real estate in this market. Also finding and focusing on their why. What I mean by their why is like, what are their emotional reasons to buy? This is where I was talking about earlier on, where I said, if you've gotten the business after 2018, you probably haven't sold real estate. We're really going to need to sell people on real estate. When I mean sell people, I don't mean manipulate them. I mean positively influence them to make the best decision for them and their family. Okay. And you have to believe it yourself. So we're going to go through the slides right now. And it really is about educating them about trends and stats. And so what kind of scripts do we have for buyers who said they lost a lot of money in the stock market? Well, let's talk about that. Here's what we are saying to overcome fear and restore confidence for our buyers in the market. Okay. Give me 1 second here. I'm going to switch to X. And this is probably what your clients who have either moved to the sideline, asked themselves this question, and they said, yes, we should wait. Or if you have people who are still kind of on the fence, those are the people we want to move back into the market. And those people who've moved to the sidelines, we can re-engage. And this is the question all the buyers are asking, right? Should we wait to buy a home? Here's what the news has to say, okay? We know rates are rising. We've seen it already happen, and the Fed has committed that they're going to raise rates 7 times this year. Rates have already hit 6%. And so we know that the monthly cost of the mortgage payment is increasing. But what is the news saying about it? The news is saying that we're on a cusp of a more balanced market. This is the headlines from Zillow, one of the most trusted voices in real estate. Says a change in the wind, higher mortgage rates, inventory rebound could be the first steps towards a more balanced market. Next one, the housing market's passing an inflection point this spring on the way to more balanced conditions. So this is what is saying. So now that being said, most of your buyers are going to say, well, wait a second, rates are increasing, the monthly housing cost is increasing. Won't real estate correct or go down with rising rates? Well, here's what the data has to say. Here's what 25 years of market history tells us about periods where home prices, what's happened with home prices during periods of increasing interest rates. So this is looking at the last 25 years of data where we had periods of time where interest rates went up over 1% in a 12-month period, okay? In January 96 to September 96, for 8 months, rates continually ratcheted up. They got up as high as 8.23%, so way higher than we are now. Home prices at that time, it went up and down a little bit, but overall, they ended that period of time at a 2% increase. October 1998 to May 2020, almost a 2-year period of time, rates went up 1.8%, again, way higher than they are now, got up to 8.5%. During that period of time, home prices went up 13%. Looking at June 2003 to June 2004, a 12-month period, rates ended up 6.3, home prices overall up 13%. June 2005 to June 2006, again, a 1-year period, rates went up over 1 point, prices went up 7%. And then November 2012 to November 2013, rates again went up 1.1, home prices went up 11%. So in the last five periods where we've had rates go up by more than 1%. And the average duration of time where rates increased was for 13 months. The ending final rate was 6.8%. And during that same period of time, on average, home prices went up 9%. Now, granted, yes, we might see a 5 to 10% correction on prices, but prices have gone up 40% since COVID started. So what we'll see is a correction, and likely, I mean, for us here where we are, even if prices came down 10%, we're probably going to end 2022 at a slightly net positive. And that is consistent with what all of the economists are saying. Senior economists are validating housing prices are not likely to come down in the foreseeable future. So waiting the market out is not going to be advantageous financially. So this is what home price appreciation surveys from the Home Price Expectation Survey of 120 different economists had to say about where they feel prices will go by 2026. Okay, so in the next 4 years, people who are optimistic saying prices will be up 60%. The average of the panelists said 40%. Prices would be up 40%, and the pessimists said over a 5-year period of time, by 2026, prices will probably only be up 23%. Okay. Now, why? A better question is to ask, well, why are rates increasing? And you'd have to be not listening to know in the news that it's based on inflation, right? The Fed's trying to get the inflation genie back in the bottle. But what does history tell us about inflation and home prices? Well, here's a pretty interesting graph. This is looking back 50 years during all of the periods of time where we've had inflation, going back to 1970. 1970, inflation was 7.1%. At that time, home prices appreciated 9.9%. In the 1980s, we had 5.6% inflation. Home prices went up 5.5%. In the 90s, 2000s, and all the way through 2020, inflation really wasn't a factor. Home prices had always outstripped inflation, except for in the 2000s. This is when we had the crash of 2008. But look at that, like home prices almost matched inflation even through the worst of times. But then if we look at 2021, last year, inflation was 6.8% and home prices went up 18%. So just looking at this pattern and sharing with our buyers, look, every period of time, every decade where we've had inflation, home prices have always outstripped inflation. So real estate is one of the time-honored inflation hedges. It's a tangible asset, and it tends to hold their value when inflation reigns, unlike paper assets. So one of our guests here today asked me, hey, what kind of scripts do we have for our people who lost money in the stock market? Well, here you go. Real estate's one of the time-honored inflation hedges. It holds its value better than paper assets. And the same thing we'll see true here in just a minute as I go through some additional market trends. So what is the risk in waiting? This is what we want to have the candid conversation with our buyers, right? All right, so maybe I don't buy all this, right? Maybe that's just stats and charts, but what's the risk in waiting? Well, here's what the risk is in waiting. If we wait to buy a home, okay, where interest rates, actually, we probably need to update this graph because rates are going to go from 6 to 7 here. But where we can get an interest rate of, maybe we do an ARM and we can get an interest rate at 5%, our monthly cost of housing will be $6,500 a month. We know rates are going up. Fed's not like hiding anything from us. They're like, we're going to continue to increase rates. If we wait and we purchase that same house, $1.5 million, 20% down, $1.2 million mortgage, our monthly payment is $7,261 a month. That's $750 more. If we keep that loan for the life of the loan, we're paying $271,000 more because we waited to buy and rates went up another point. Okay. Now, this is looking at potential appreciation if we just stay on the sidelines. So this is based on the average appreciation across the country is 3.8%. The 50-year average for the Bay Area is 7.6%. Okay, I call our Bay Area the Garden of Eden of real estate because we have double the national average for appreciation. Assuming somebody bought a house here for 1.3, and by 2026, they'll have accumulated 575,000 in appreciation. So that's another cost of potentially waiting. But all right, this all sounds good, but what if the market does go down? Okay, we're starting to see some pockets where it does go down. Well, let's look at that. What kind of correction are we likely to see if things go down? This is looking at the last 50 years of Bay Area real estate. And you can see typically the market runs up 100%. And then we have a correction of some kind. Back in 1984, went up 100%. 1990, we had a recession. Fed raised interest rates and we went into a recession, and it was a long recession. It took us 5 years to come back. But prices went down about 11%. The dot-com pop, again, prices ran up another 100%. And why did we get these corrections? Because home prices become not affordable. Dot-com crash happens. NASDAQ goes down 75%, okay? 2001, NASDAQ went down 75%. Bay Area real estate went down 10%, okay? Our big crash, prices ran up 60%. We had the big financial crisis. Housing led us into that. The very, very worst housing, decline we've ever seen, because they were giving away. And people will ask you, well, is this going to be like 2008? Well, in 2008, 30% of the home purchases were zero money down loans, or 30% of the market was zero money down loans. They had what they're called ninja loans at that time. It meant no income, no job, no assets. I could be a gardener and I could say, I'm a landscape architect and I make $300,000 a year. Give me a $1.5 million. And they say, here you go. That's what got us in trouble. We don't have that now. 75% of the homeowners in Santa Clara County have at least 50% equity in their homes. So we have a lot of people with a lot of equity. So there's not the likelihood people are just going to walk away from their homes. So anyway, if you look, again, summary, 10% is the average correction. We had another correction in 2018 that we talked about earlier in this call. Facebook, Apple, Netflix, Google went down between 25 and 40%. NASDAQ was down about 30% as a whole. NASDAQ was down about 30% as a whole. Bay Area real estate went down 8%, okay? So we've had 4 corrections in 40 years. Our average correction is 10%. So what if it does go down? Well, if prices decrease by 10% and interest rate goes up by 1%, guess what? Your monthly payment stays the same. So, if prices, because here's what we know. If interest rates go up 1%, your mortgage qualifying goes down 10%. If a buyer is pre-approved for $1 million and rates go from 5 to 6, well, now he's approved for 900 grand. By the same principle, if prices go down 10%, rates go up 1%, your monthly payment is going to be exactly the same. So it leads us to this conclusion. We say, well, you live in the price, but not the payment. Now, the question is, what if the worst happens and it crashes? Because we have to go there with our clients. Like, okay, let's see what happens. Oh, this slide got switched. This is the scenario. I'll fix that. But this is the scenario of prices drop 10% and rates go up 1%. $1.5 million house, 80% mortgage. Mortgage is $1.2 million, 5%. Our payment is $6,508 a month. Okay. Now, if I wait and prices to come down, that $1.5 million house comes down 10%. It's now $1.35 million. If I get an 80% loan on that $1.35 million, guess what? That's $1.08 million. I'm paying 6% interest. My payment is now $6,541. I'm actually paying a little bit more, $35 more per month to live in that house. Okay. And that's why we say you live in the monthly payment, not the price. Like, that's the economic reality. If you're a buyer, whether you bought the house for $1.35 million or you bought it for $1.5 million, when we sell it in 10 years, when the house is worth 2.7, like, you're not going to be concerned whether you paid $1.35 million or $1.45 million. Like, you're going to be happy that you got into the house with the good schools and your payment was the same. Okay. But what if the worst happens and it crashes? That's where this slide got shifted. I created a story here. This is an actual real person here at Real Estate Experts. He's an agent. He bought this house at the absolute worst time. Okay. The absolute worst time. He bought the house right here at the peak of 2008. He paid $810,000 for this house. It's on 1630 Andalusia Way in San Jose. And guess what happened? The market went down. In 4 years, it dropped 27% to a low of 591,000. He paid 810, it went to 591, okay? In 5.5 years, a year and a half later, after it bottomed out, it completely recovered. It was now worth 810, okay? So he made his money back. And then, I don't know why something got shifted here. And then in 2017, a full 10 years later, it had doubled. And today, Brad's smiling because this house that he paid 810 for, that went down to 591, is now worth 2.2 million. Okay. So again, looking through the worst of times, the overall trend is up. The only time that somebody can get hurt is if they decide to sell their property. So the question we have is, when is the best time to buy? It depends on how long you plan to live here. If you're planning on living here for more than 5 years, buying now is still a safe, smart move. That's the reality. So that is the talk track that we are using to keep our buyers engaged in this market. Let's switch back here. And give me 1 second. We're just about wrapping it up. Stop share. There we go. So thoughts or questions in the chat regarding that dialogue? Okay. So here, what's your 90-day action plan? We talked a lot about, what to do. What should you be doing during this shift to keep things moving? Okay. Number one, this is your 90-day pivot plan. First thing is dial in your routine and calendar. Get Miracle Morning, get your mindset right, establish a really productive habit. We talked about doubling down on your lead generation efforts, tripling down on lead conversion, and then role play, training, and follow-up. Role play and training. So role play, prospecting, and follow-up. Master scripts on this market. We're going to send out the market update deck for you. I'll send it along with a recording. I did that in about 10 minutes. You don't have to use all of those slides. You can put some of those slides on social media. We've had some of our agents who shared, for example, what happens during inflationary period with house prices, posting that on social. Like, here's an interesting fact. Every time we've had inflationary period, housing prices have typically gone up faster and greater than the pace of inflation. If you've been hurting in the stock market, if your stock market's down, consider moving things to real estate. Reach out and give me a call. Sellers, it's mastering the stats and the scripts. And number 3, double down on your prospecting and lead follow-up. So that is your prescriptive formula. Dial in your routine, master scripts, and double down. Question: was what we shared today valuable to you and your business? Please chime in the chat if you got at least one nugget or one takeaway that you can apply to your business. Awesome. Well, as I promised, we want to continue to deliver value. I'm glad you guys got value out of this. The next session that we're going to do is on winning with sellers. I did this internally as a training at Real Estate Experts, and those people who have listings were like, wow, man, this is really, really good. And I'm glad I have this available to me. So we're going to do an upcoming session on winning with sellers, and then another one on keeping buyers engaged in this market. So in order to do that, we want you to just register for our upcoming mastermind. Simply scan this QR code here. And that way we will we'll keep you, when you scan the QR code, you'll see a form for our mastermind to apply for the mastermind. What we want to know there is what is most important to you, like what are the topics that you would like to see in upcoming webinar series, the things that where you find yourself struggling in the business, so we can create custom content around there. So if you'd like to receive the slides that we have today, scan the QR code, Give us a little bit of information about your business and where you would like to hear or see future sessions and topics that we can discuss so that we can add more value. If you don't have a QR code, you can do that at thrivethroughtheshift.com. That's thrivethroughtheshift.com. Lauren, if you want to, we've got, don't have anything. We've got some Q&A here.
Yeah, I answered a few questions that did come in, and we've got some, great feedback in the chat. Everybody found it very helpful.
Okay.
So yeah.
Yeah, you will, Shalini, we will send out both sets of slides. So again, go ahead and just scan the QR code. And then we will send you not only the slides for both sets of slides, we will also send you that roadmap of the 7 stages of a real estate business. I hope you guys got some value out of today. And sorry we ran 5 minutes over, but we look forward to seeing you on an upcoming event.